Hi. All right. Okay. So I just tried making a video about negotiation and conflict as it relates to page 129 in the book. Super topical right now. And yeah, hopefully I'll get that out. So I just want to continue from yesterday, where I had started out with the adaptations and holding patterns. And so once again, the adaptations and holding patterns fit within the method of learning what the hub is and then understanding interruptions and stressors. And then the adaptations and holding patterns are basically the way that we respond to stressors and interruptions of a given hub by adapting for really like to make the best of a situation, especially, when we're young and our nervous system is developing. So, anyhow, I'm just gonna read as much as I can, um, today, and we'll see how this goes. Because yeah, so and one of the things too is that I do think that it's kind of weird dropping into this. I'm finding that even for me, as I'm reading this, it's kinda, like, a little out of context, but still, I think it works. Let me know what you think. You could drop me a comment on that. So anyway, so voltage. So this is talking about charge, um, which I really love that section. This section I really like, I've got to say, I'm reading it. Starts at page 127. So as we're moving into, we're talking about like charge. Now we're talking about intensity, which is voltage. So I'm going to start reading that. So voltage, chronic and acute. Like electrical voltage, charge occurs in a range of intensity, both in the moment and over time. Think of the Goldilocks principle, an analogy of the fairy tale used in cognitive science and developmental psychology. Goldilocks tried 3 bowls of porridge, one too hot, one too cold, and one just right. Acute experiences that involve invasion and abuse of any or all boundaries can and do create long standing damage. A single experience of intense shock and voltage, such as assault or abuse, can create a holding pattern in our body mind. However, interruption and trauma can be experienced as too much too soon, the porridge is too hot, or as too little for too long, the porridge is too cold. Another way to look at this concept is to think of a plant being over or underwatered. If a plant is overwatered, its roots become waterlogged, so it will need time to dry out. Or, in the case of too little for too long, if a plant is underwatered, the soil becomes so dry that water drains out before it can reach the roots. It needs to receive water slowly. It can't receive more than it can handle. Someone who has been overwhelmed, overwatered by charge needs time to process. Someone who has been underwhelmed or ignored, underwatered, needs slow, steady, and patient care over time. Children get overwatered when experiencing acute or chronic trauma and shock, and are underwatered through chronic loneliness, neglect, and boredom. As Lowen and Reich asserted, when it comes to the intensity of charge, body size matters, but for a young child, this can present a challenge. All children are small relative to adults. An average 4-year-old is about 3 feet, 3 inches tall, and weighs between 34 and 40 pounds. The average American adult is 5 feet, 8 inches tall, and weighs about 170 pounds. If we convert that size differential to our adult lives, it would be like having a 10-foot tall, 720-pound person towering over us. We'd be helpless to defend ourselves if the person wasn't kind. We'd either hide, like trying to be an easy child who adjusts to the capability of the caregiver, or we'd fight, perhaps at the cost of being shamed, then labeled as disruptive or bad. If a hub receives too much voltage before it's developmentally capable of handling it, such as with abuse, it can get blown out like a circuit, or it can become a live wire when activated by touch or stimulation. The energy that gets trapped in a hub with a traumatic amount of voltage must be released carefully. As we grow and mature, the development of each hub subsequently increases its capacity and integration with the other hubs. Example of age and size inappropriate voltage include being hit or physically restrained, being verbally abused, or being screamed at or shamed for behavior that's developmentally impossible. For example, children are not developmentally capable of sharing until they're between 3.5 to 4 years old, but research has shown that 43% of adults believe children can and should be able to master sharing by age 2. Studies have shown that when forced sharing happens too early, it interrupts the development of generosity in young children. High voltage sent through a tiny body can also be experienced when children are expected to behave with adult level maturity. If a hub gets overstimulated by what's seen, heard, or experienced before it has developed the capacity to have perspective, then a shock to the system and adaptation is necessary and inevitable. Exposure to pornography, flirtation, and sexual innuendo is common for many children, and the stimulation for a little body can lead to confusion when being interrupted feels exciting. What a child believes it can handle versus what's appropriate can often be two different things. A caring adult who helps with the processing of the high voltage, inappropriate experiences can be life saving for a child. Yeah. Sometimes these experiences are walled off in the fog of our early cognition. Other times they are memorable but muted and rationalized. Memorable because of the shock to the system, and rationalized to protect the perpetrators. In adulthood, a common protective response is, I turned out fine. Adults will talk nonchalantly about mistreatment or childhood's witnessed or childhood's witnessing violence or being exposed to age inappropriate sexual material. Why do these memories persist when so many others do not? In some cases, the interruption was so severe that the memory of it is walled off. But then trouble with emotional regulation arises, which can feel like a mystery. Sometimes, if we're holding a lot of charge, we can surprise ourselves by the intensity of our reactions when we see or experience injustice, abuse of power, insecurity, or deception. I'll reread that. Sometimes, if we're holding a lot of charge, we can surprise ourselves by the intensity of our reactions when we see or experience injustice, abuse of power, insecurity, or deception. We may find ourselves getting activated and not understand why. Energy is the currency of our lives. We receive energy in food, touch, and courage. We're familiar with how to release and discharge energy through work, physical activity, dancing, talking, and yelling at sports events and concerts. We release with spontaneous reactions until we're taught to control our behavior, perhaps to avoid punishment, and to gain acceptance, perhaps to avoid embarrassment. As children, we learn how to fit into our environment, sometimes in ways that shift us out of our natural responses and inclinations. If there are stressors in the home or the environment, like a death, an illness, or unmet needs, we adapt to survive. Life finds a way. Anything that is alive adapts to its environment to the best of its ability. However, if survival adaptations are not consciously evaluated, they can become hardwired reflexes, which later in life interfere with the quality of our lives. Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm going to stop there for today. I hope you're having a good weekend. Thank you for coming along for the ride. If there's anything that you specifically want covered, or if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out. Again, thank you so much, and talk to you soon. Bye.